George Osborne told us yesterday that Britain was finally leaving behind the age of irresponsibility. I'm afraid it's a claim I find quite difficult to believe. The centrepiece of this claim was George Osborne's promise that future governments would always want budget surpluses under normal economic circumstances. This will constrain government borrowing. Now, government borrowing is actually a responsible thing to do from the perspective of future generations. It means they can pay for very, very long-term investments at today's prices rather than future inflated prices. George Osborne also talked a lot about the Northern Powerhouse, and rebalancing the British economy was something else that was supposed to be part of his more responsible economic stewardship that he's been promising since 2010. But despite the hype, despite the rhetoric, there was very little in the way of transport and infrastructure investment promised for the North. Billions are being put into London and South East transport networks, while money is actually being taken away from northern investments in transport and infrastructure. Another thing that George Osborne could have done if he was interested in responsible economic policy and generating a sustainable economic recovery is introduce measures that might increase Britain's productivity from its current appalling status. One of the ways that George Osborne could have addressed Britain's productivity problem, which might have put the economic recovery on a more sustainable path, would be through higher wages, higher earnings. There was a lot in the budget about pay, about people's wages, with George Osborne rebranding the national minimum wage as a national living wage. In practice, this represents only a quite gradual and very minor increase in the minimum wage, which will not apply to all age groups. We need to be clear about this point. These wage rises were happening anyway as the labour market finally tightens. So what Osborne is doing here is really taking credit for meagre pay rises that were happening anyway, while at the same time dampening future pressure on businesses to increase wages more substantively.